I'm Bobby. It's been a long, winding journey, but I'll start with that fateful Christmas Eve. The living room was bathed in the warm glow of twinkling lights, and the air was filled with the sweet smell of pine from the Christmas tree. My sister, Jenna, and her 3 kids were tearing into presents like there was no tomorrow. I watched as little Max ripped open a shiny box to reveal the latest gaming console, worth at least $500. His eyes lit up like fireworks, and he let out a whoop of joy. Then there was Lily, Jenna's daughter, who unwrapped a pair of designer sneakers that I knew cost around $250. And for baby Ethan, a custom-made rocking horse, engraved with his name, which must have set my parents back a good $1,500. All in all, they'd spent around $2,200 on my sister's kids. Meanwhile, my daughter, Ava, who's 9 years old, sat quietly on the floor, clutching a plain plastic bag from the local dollar store. She looked up at me with those big, innocent eyes and whispered, "Mommy, did I do something wrong?" My heart felt like it was being squeezed in a vice. I knelt down, took her face in my hands, and said, "No, baby, but Grandma and Grandpa just did. Let me take you back a bit. I'm a single mom, and my husband, Tom, passed away in a car accident 5 years ago. Before that, we were a tight-knit family. My parents, Harold and Martha, used to call us every week, and we'd often visit them on weekends. But after Tom's death, things changed. My sister, Jenna, is the social butterfly of the family. She's always organizing events and has a large circle of friends. She lives just 15 minutes away from our parents, while I live a 2-hour drive away. Jenna married a successful businessman, Greg, and they have a beautiful big house. I work as a nurse at a local hospital, and it's been a struggle to make ends meet since Tom's passing. I've had to take on extra shifts, and Ava has been incredibly understanding. She loves to draw, and she spends hours at the kitchen table with her colored pencils, creating beautiful pictures. A couple of weeks before Christmas, Ava spent 2 whole weeks making a special drawing for my parents. It was a picture of our whole family, with a big, smiling sun in the sky and a rainbow. She carefully rolled it up and put it in a folder, excited to give it to them. 3 weeks before Christmas, my mom called me. "Bobby, I need you to bring a fruit salad. And make sure it's not too fancy," she said. There was no "how are you" or "how's Ava." It was all business. I just said okay, like I always do. I could hear Jenna laughing in the background. They'd been planning Christmas together for months, and I found out about it from a post on Jenna's social media, not from a phone call. Over the years, my parents have shown a clear preference for Jenna's kids. They've forgotten Ava's birthday twice, even though I've reminded them every time. But they've never missed a single birthday of Jenna's kids. Last year, they threw a huge party for Max's 7th birthday with a magician and a bouncy castle, while Ava's birthday went almost unnoticed. On Christmas Eve, Ava and I made the long drive to my parents' house. She was so excited, chatting non-stop about how much she hoped Grandma and Grandpa would like her drawing. When we arrived, the house looked beautiful, all decked out with lights and decorations. Jenna and her family were already there. My dad barely acknowledged me when I walked in. He just nodded and went back to watching the football game on TV. My mom gave me a quick hug and then rushed off to check on the food. Ava set her drawing and a little handmade card on the side table, but no one even glanced at them. After dinner, it was time for gifts. One by one, Jenna's kids opened their expensive presents, and my parents beamed with pride. Then, my mom reached behind the tree and pulled out that dollar-store bag for Ava. There was no wrapping paper, no bow, just a cheap coloring book with a price tag of $1.99 still on it. The room went silent. Jenna looked away, pretending to examine her nails. Greg took a long sip of his drink. My dad stared blankly at the TV. Ava opened the coloring book, turned to the first page, and then looked up at me with those sad eyes. That's when I knew I couldn't stay silent anymore. I picked Ava up in my arms and grabbed our coats. We left the house without looking back. As we drove home, Ava fell asleep, the coloring book still in her lap. I didn't cry, but I was seething inside. I thought about all the times my parents had overlooked Ava, all the birthdays and holidays that had been overshadowed by Jenna's kids. The next day, I decided to have a talk with my mom. I called her, and she answered with a cheery, "Merry Christmas, dear." I said, "Mom, we need to talk about what happened last night." She replied, "What happened? We had a lovely Christmas until you decided to make a scene." I was so angry. I said, "It's not about me. It's about Ava. You spent over $2,000 on Jenna's kids and gave Ava a $1.99 coloring book." My mom tried to brush it off, saying, "Money doesn't measure love, Bobby." I shot back, then explained the expensive gifts for Jenna's kids. She went silent for a moment, then said, "Jenna told us what her kids wanted. You never tell us what Ava needs." I was furious. I said, "I shouldn't have to tell you to remember your granddaughter exists." Later that day, my dad called. He said, "You've upset your mother. You need to apologize." I told him, "She upset Ava first. You've been treating her like an afterthought for years." He got defensive and said, "You've always been so sensitive. Jenna's kids are around all the time, so we know what they like." I replied, "I've driven 2 hours every holiday for years, and you still can't treat Ava fairly."
Jenna also called me.
She said, "Mom is really upset. Can you just let it go?" I was incredulous. I said, "Your kids got expensive gifts, and mine got a cheap coloring book. How can I let it go?" She tried to justify it, saying, "The kids have different needs." I told her, "Ava made them a beautiful drawing, and no one even looked at it." I couldn't keep this to myself. I decided to send an email to the whole family.
I spent days drafting it.
The first draft was long and full of anger, but I deleted it. The second one was too soft. Finally, I came up with a short, simple email. I included 2 photos, one of Jenna's kids' expensive gifts spread out on the living room floor, and the other of Ava's dollar store coloring book. I asked, "Is this what family looks like?" I sent the email early in the morning. Soon after, the phone started ringing. My mom called, screaming at me for airing our family business. My dad left a voicemail, demanding that I take the email down. Jenna texted me, calling me crazy. But not everyone was against me. My Aunt Carol called and said, "I've noticed this for years. Thank you for saying what I couldn't." My cousin Mike also reached out to say he believed me. On New Year's Eve, Jenna sent a group text inviting everyone to my parents' house. But I was clearly not welcome. My cousin Lisa called me and said, "You're on the group text, but not on the invite." That's messed up. I decided to stay home with Ava. We made pizza and watched the ball drop on TV. Ava drew a picture of us together, with a big smile on her face. A few days later, my dad called. He said, "You've made your point. Now take the email down and apologize." I said, "Apologize for what?" "For standing up for my daughter." He got angry and said, "You're tearing the family apart." I replied, "The crack was there long before I pointed it out. I'm just not going to pretend it doesn't exist anymore." As the weeks went by, things started to change. My Aunt Carol sent Ava a set of high-quality art supplies. Ava was over the moon. She spent hours drawing with her new pencils. My parents' attitude also started to shift. My mom sent me a text saying she was sorry for hurting Ava. It wasn't a perfect apology, but it was a start. My dad sent Ava a postcard from a fishing trip saying he thought of her. At Easter, my uncle, Dave, hosted a brunch. He invited Ava and me, and when we arrived, Ava was greeted with warm smiles. My parents were there too. My mom looked a bit nervous. She said, "I've been seeing a counselor and I realize I was wrong." I gave her a hug and said, "Thank you for admitting it." My dad knelt down in front of Ava and said, "I'm sorry, sweetie. I'll do better." Ava just smiled and gave him a hug. Now, things aren't perfect. The relationship with my parents is still a work in progress. But Ava is happier. She's taking art classes at the community center, and she's making new friends. I've learned that sometimes you have to stand up for what's right, even if it means rocking the boat. Silence is not the answer. And I'm going to make sure Ava knows that she's loved and valued, no matter what. If you're in a similar situation, don't be afraid to speak up. One word, one stand can change everything.